Hey guys, it's Danny, and I'm hoping my fan is not too loud, but it is way too hot to be here in my room without the fan on, so I'm hoping it's not too loud. If it is, I'm sorry, I'll try to cover it up with background music. But today, I am going to be doing my June wrap-up and my July wrap-up. I figured I'd combine them in one. And I'm not going to be making an August TBR this month because with the booktubeathon going on, I'm not really sure what books I'm going to be reading for that, but I am going to be participating, and instead of doing like the daily challenges, I'm just gonna film little clips of me and do a week-long vlog, if that makes sense, so that I can give like a reading update as to what I did read that week, but it's not going to be posted until booktubeathon is done, so I hope that's okay. So I figure I should just get started because it's probably going to be a bit of a longer video because it is combining the 2 months. So the first book that I read in June was Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. This was the Novel Bunch's book of the month. Me, Gwen, and Mads run that. Read along if you're new to my channel. And the Goodreads link is down below, and the Twitter link is also down below. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. Let me tell you, this book made me cry. There are clips in one of my previous videos where I cried. The clips are from Snapchat, which I posted to my story, and I also posted to Twitter, and I actually posted it to Facebook too, so all my family saw me crying over a book. But it was that good, and it is about Taylor Edwards, who is spending the last summer she has with her dad at their old cottage. Their old lake house apparently is what it's called. And she's kind of reluctant to go there because her ex-best friend and her ex-boyfriend are both still there, and the last time she saw them, things didn't exactly end very well. So she's only going there because she knows it's going to be the last summer she has with her dad, and she wants to make the best of it. I don't want to go too much into it because I might start crying, and we don't need that to happen. But if you're looking for a cute summer contemporary read that will most likely make you cry as much as you did with Tiffio's, or something equally as sad, pick up this book, because this is probably my favorite Morgan Matson book, and I've read this book by her, Amy and Roger's Epic Detour, which is right behind me here, and her Katie Finn book, which is Broken Hearts, Fences, and Other Things to Mend, which is a mouthful of a title. After that, I decided I wanted to pick up something nice and light and fluffy and cute, and I got exactly that and a little bit more than I bargained for when I picked up Off the Page by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. This is the second book, the companion novel to Between the Lines, which is right over there behind my TBR jar. And I'm not going to tell you much about this second book because it is the sequel, but in the first book it follows Delilah, almost forgot her name, and she ends up falling in love with a book character, and the book character falls in love with her because it's a magical children's book that she meets this prince in, and they can talk to each other and everything, and they try to connect into each other's lives, and it's crazy and amazing, and I wish it would happen in real life because there were so many characters that I would love to know in real life. And this was just as good as the first book. The first book was probably my favorite book when I read it back in grade 6. Wow. It feels like a long time ago that I read the first book, and I didn't even know that the second book was coming out until a month before the release. Now that I have it, I like this cover a lot more, and I absolutely love this, and I'm pretty sure I gave this one 5 stars as well, like I did with the first book when I read it a while ago. After reading Off the Page, I didn't really know what I was going to read, and then my dad dropped off a book to me, and at the time I was struggling through a Kindle book that I was reading, and I ended up DNFing that book, and I can't even remember the name of it now. As soon as my dad dropped off this book, I knew it was the next book that I wanted to read, and so I did read it, and oh my god, just... And that book is Grey by E.L. James, which is the companion novel series to 50 Shades of Grey. It is basically the first book of 50 Shades of Grey in Christian's point of view and not Anastasia's, and I have to say that I really enjoyed the ending of this one compared to Anna's version of events, because the epilogue of this book was a lot better written, and it kind of left off on a better spot than where hers did. I'm hoping that the next 2 books are written in his point of view eventually too, but if we don't get those extra 2 books, I will be okay with that because this ended on a great note and I would be happily okay with it just being this, but part of me still wants the other 2 books too, so yeah. I forgot to say, but I gave this 5 stars if there wasn't any, like, obviousness to that. The book that I read after Grey was a graphic novel, and I hadn't heard much about it on BookTube, but I had heard a bunch about it on Goodreads. So it led me to pick it up when I did my last little shopping spree at Chapters before I went to Cape Breton, and I finished it the day I got it, and I loved it. And that is Alex and Ateh Volume 1 by Jonathan Luna and Sarah Vaughn. This is about Alex, and he is kind of like closed off, and he had a bad breakup with his ex-girlfriend, and so for his birthday, his grandma gets him an android robot person. And a while ago, there was a big issue with one of the major companies where the robots started to become alive and know what they were doing, and everybody panicked, and now everybody's kind of scared about having robots. So that's basically learning about the robots and how Alex deals with having Ateh. I'm not sure how you say that. I've always called her Ateh, but I'm guessing some people would call her Ada or something like that. Ateh just sounds better. But yes, I am very, very excited to pick up the 2nd volume of this, because I mean, this was like really short. Why are graphic novels in like the trade paperback version so short? Can't it just be like a whole book full of them? Because I need that in my life for every graphic novel that I read. Oops. And I gave this 5 stars, I believe. There's a lot of 5-star books in June, I guess. And the last book that I read in June is another graphic novel that I also got when I picked up Alex and Ateh, and the other book that I got along with that. And this one I struggled with a little bit. I'll explain why in a minute. The book I'm awkwardly talking about is Sex Criminals Volume 2 by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky. So I'm not going to explain what happens in this novel because it is the sequel to the first volume, which I have up there. But the main premise of the entire series is that okay, stay with me on this and don't get creeped out, but it is about 2 people, a girl named Susie and a guy named John, and they have a thing where when they have sex, time stops. And it's not a metaphor or anything. Time actually stops, and they're the only 2 people that don't freeze. Basically, instead of doing what normal people would do when time stops, you know, freak out and panic and stuff, no, they don't do normal stuff like that. They rob banks. Quite the story plot, I must admit. And in this one, it kind of carries off where the last one ended. But with this one, it was a little bit harder to follow because it was a while since I had read Sex Criminals Volume 1. And on top of that, it followed more of John's perspective, and I don't know, he just kind of confused me, and it left me a little bit confused. It took me a while to catch up with it, but by the end of it, I was still enjoying it, and so I gave it 4 stars. So yes, those were the 5 books that I read in June, and I have to admit I did not complete my TBR jar goal for the month of June, which was read a book picked by someone else. Mads from Madly Books had picked Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas for me, and I didn't finish it, but I did start it. So I decided to let this one roll over into July because I knew I was going to finish the book. And so I did complete this task at the beginning of July. I think it was like 3 days into July. So now on to the books that I did read in July, starting off with the one that cancels out my read a book picked by somebody else TBR jar pick from the month of June, and that was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Still don't know how to say it. I have a hard time getting into fantasy books, like high fantasy books, so it takes me a while to actually get into a book and be able to finish it. So I knew that I was probably gonna have an issue starting this book, but once I got to the middle of it, that's where things really picked up and it got interesting, and I finished it like while I was traveling to Cape Breton, not when I was in Cape Breton, but just like before we got there, or to New Brunswick, let me say, because we went to New Brunswick first. If you don't know, this book follows Selena Sardothian. I'm guessing I'm saying her name right, hoping. And she is a assassin who was sent to basically work in the mines and caves until her death, because she was captured by the kingdom, and she was sentenced to life in the caves for her crimes of killing people. But then the king's son offers her a deal. She has to represent him in a fight to the death match against 23 other assassins and killers and shoplifters, peoples. And if she wins, after 5 years of being the king's champion and basically his assassin to go kill people and do his dirty work, then she will regain her freedom. She won't have to live in the mines forever and be treated like crap and basically imprisoned for life. She will be free to do what she wants, and so she happily agrees. Yes, I had a hard time getting through the first chunk of it, but I did manage to finish it, and I do want to get Crown of Midnight, but I want to keep it in the same pretty soft cover edition. So hopefully soon I will be able to get the second book, which is Crown of Midnight, off of Book Depository, because that's the only place I know where I can get it. Because there was a story behind this book where I went to the store looking for the hardcover book, they didn't have it, so the one girl cut this book out of the bind-up of the first 3 books and said, here, take it, but I don't think they do that for the second and third book of the series, so I'm just gonna have to order those 2 in this cover and probably the 4th one when it comes out in this edition on Book Depository. I ended up giving this book 4 stars, and I'm sure I will like the second and the third and hopefully the 4th when it comes out as much as I did this one, and maybe they will end up being 5 stars. After that, I decided to jump into the book that I also picked up when I picked up Sex Criminals Volume 2 and Alex and Ateh, because I had been excited to read it and it had been a new release, and I was surprised that I actually got it because they almost didn't have it when I went looking for it. So fingers were crossed, and I was very glad that they did have it, so I brought it with me and I read it and I loved it, and that is Extraordinary Means by Robin Schneider. Now, I have the first book she ever wrote, which is The Beginning of Everything, and I actually started that book a long time ago. Like this time last year, I started that book. Could not finish it. It's on my TBR shelf. I have not gotten rid of it, and I probably will be picking it up in the future because I really did enjoy this one. This one follows our main characters, which is Lane and Sadie, and they are 2 kids who are and my face is going pink because of this green color. Always happens. They are 2 kids living inside a school, but it's not just any school. It's a school where these sick kids go because there is a new strand of tuberculosis, which is uncurable, untreatable, and tuberculosis is quite contagious. So they have all these kids that are sick and basically dying in this school so that they aren't going to contaminate anybody. And basically it follows their time through the school and hopefully trying to find a cure to this uncurable tuberculosis. I'll admit the ending was pretty predictable, but I still really enjoyed it, and I liked the way they interacted. And I mean, it was sad and made me smile at the same time, and I don't really know how to explain all the feels I had with this because I liked it, but at the same time I kind of wanted the ending to be different, but the ending made sense. But I wanted a different ending. I wanted a different outcome. Why couldn't there be a different outcome? Why? I wanted a different outcome, but despite it, I gave it 5 stars and I loved it, and I'm hoping to love The Beginning of Everything as much as I like this one. I got halfway through The Beginning of Everything before I hit a reading slump, so hopefully I will not hit a reading slump this time reading it. Who knows, maybe I might read it in August. Following that, I decided to pick up another cute and contemporary book that I took to Cape Breton with me, and I was very happy to finish it because I had started it before and only got like not even a chapter in and didn't think I was gonna like it the second time going through, but I did, and that is, I forget the name of the book, and that is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This book, Everybody loves this book, and I now understand why. This book follows Lara Jean. She has only had 5 crushes in her entire life, 5 boys she's ever loved, and instead of talking herself out of a crush like most girls do, or they admit their crush and then they realize that it's an unrequited love, she writes the boys love letters and puts them inside of a hat box. Never mails them, but those letters seem to help her fall out of love with the boys. Until one day, the letters are mailed and all of the boys receive them and read these love letters that she's written to them over her lifetime. And so basically, it follows her trying to get the letters back and trying to explain to these boys why these letters were sent. And throughout that, she ends up having this relationship with a boy. Let me tell you, it was kind of cliche for some of this, but at the same time, it dealt with things that like I didn't expect from this book. And like it had levels. I don't know how else to describe it. It had levels. It was slow in some parts, and it wasn't really one of those like roller coaster of a ride. It was just kind of smooth sailing through the whole thing, and yes, there were like conflicts that happened that they had to overcome and stuff, but like it was a smooth ride. It was just like a nice and easy read, and I actually really liked it the second time going through. It's the first time I only got a chapter through it and then stopped reading it, because I tend to do that a lot. And I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars, if not 4.5 stars. And I really enjoyed it. If you're looking for an easy, smooth ride of a book, pick this book. And its sequel. Spoiler alert, I read that this month too. But not before I ended up reading the book, one of the books anyways, that I got in Cape Breton, which I did not do a book haul for, which I'm going to be doing after this in a July book haul. Spoiler alert! The book, graphic novel, that I was talking about is Rat Queens Volume 1, Sassy and Sorcery. I don't know, Curtis J. Weeb and Rock Upchurch. I'm guessing that's who wrote it. I don't really know how to describe this one. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. So I'm just gonna put a Goodreads description in the down bar, you know, in that area where people post things, which I normally don't post things. I'm gonna post that down there. The storyline was a little hard to follow. Some of the characters just kind of confused me. But I did still enjoy it, and I still do want to pick up the next volume to see if I like it more. I don't really know how I can explain how I feel about this. It's just an odd book, and I've heard a lot of recommendations for me to read this. I liked it, but it was odd, but there were cute things in it, and just, I don't know. I have no words for this book. Just, I gave it 4 stars, so I did like it, and I do plan on picking up the next book soon, sometime. And apparently, if you like Saga, you will like this. So, if you liked Saga, go get this, because it was a trip and a half, let me tell you. So, following the trip and a half, I ended up picking up the other book that I got while in Cape Breton, which will also be in my July book haul, which was P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han, which is the sequel to the other book, To All the Boys I've Loved Before. So I'm not really going to give much detail about this one because it is a sequel. However, I will say that much like the first one, it was kind of a smooth sailing. Not very much happened in the book, but it was still enjoyable to read, although some things did happen that I wasn't expecting again, and that's probably why I enjoyed it as much as I did. If you're looking for a really easy read, like I said, pick up this series because they're 2 really easy books. They're pretty long. They're almost 350 pages for this one and 327 for this one. Something like that. Around those page numbers. But they're easy to follow, easy to read. Not much happens, but they're still really good. And I don't know how that can be, but it is. And I gave this one 4 stars as well. The next book is a ARC copy of a book that I received through NetGalley on my Kindle, but I'm going to pop a picture in right here because I don't have a cover on here, and that is What You Left Behind by Jessica Verdi. This book comes out August 4th, I believe. So I'm going to be filming a review in the next couple of days for this, and I'm going to be posting it as part of the promotion for it, I guess. But I really, really enjoyed it. The book is set in Raiden's point of view, which is the main male character of the book, who is struggling through life right now because not only is he trying to get through the end of high school and earn a scholarship for soccer, he is also trying to juggle the fact that he is a brand new father to a baby who doesn't have a mother because he believes that the reason why her mom died is his fault because he got her pregnant, so she stopped her chemo treatments. That is very difficult to explain, let me tell you. It follows that he also makes a new friend at work named Joni. I'm guessing that's how you say her name. I don't think it's Johnny. I think it's Joni, Joni. The only problem is Joni doesn't know that he has a baby. He hasn't told her. He's lying to her. But she's the only person that kind of makes him feel like himself again. And he's also on the quest to find all of these journals that Meg, his girlfriend who died, left behind for him. Or he believes that she left behind for him. And at some times I felt like it was kind of Raiden going, oh poor me, what do? I don't know how to raise this baby. And I mean, I get that. You're a brand new dad who doesn't know anything about babies, and you grew up without a dad, so you don't really know what you're doing either. But there were parts where he made me frustrated. There were a few times where I got really confused and frustrated. At one point I thought I had gotten a headache from what had gone on in this book. But despite all that, it had a very satisfying ending. I will probably go into more depth in my review, which will be coming soon, and there will be a link in the description and on the book cover right here when it is up. And I ended up giving it 4 stars, so I really enjoyed it, and I think I might end up purchasing a physical copy when it comes out. The last book I read in July is a physical book, and I got it a few months ago at Value Village for less than $2, so it was a steal, and it was a brand new copy. I think we mentioned it in my 1-year anniversary video with Melody because she was reading it when I was down in Cape Breton, but she never actually finished it, but I did. And I don't know how to describe how I feel about this book. So I'm just going to show it to you, and then I'm going to attempt to form words about how I feel. The last book that I finished in July is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. Now I have to say I was a bit biased going into this because I really, really loved the movie, and I know I did the wrong thing by watching the movie first, but this came out so long ago, and the movie came out in 2012, and I wasn't planning on reading the book because I didn't own it, didn't want to own it, and was satisfied with just watching the movie. And part of me still wishes I had just watched the movie. So many people are going to hate me for saying this, but I found this book so bland and so boring. I struggled to get through it. I probably could have read 2 books in the time that I read this because I started reading this after I finished What You Left Behind, which was like the night before we were about to leave Cape Breton to come back home. And I didn't finish it until like 2 days after I had gotten home, which was about 5 days where I just read this book and I was completely bored. Like, no, it was longer. It took longer. It took me over a week to read this book. Part of me liked it because it had similarness to the movie. And I know Stephen Chbosky ended up writing the script for the movie. I really don't know how to put into words how much I was frustrated because I was actually frustrated because there was extra to this book that wasn't in the movie. Maybe it was because he wrote it all in letters that it bugged me, because maybe I don't like reading it like that, but I mean there's other books that I've read completely in letters that I did like. I get so frustrated because I don't know why I didn't like it, other than the fact that it was slow and it was bland and it was different from the movie, and I liked the movie a lot better, and I only gave this 3 stars because of that. And part of me wants to mark it down to a 2-star book. I'm sorry to all the people who liked this. I really am. I wanted to like it like I loved the movie. I still love the movie, but I don't like the book. And I don't know how else to explain it. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. I didn't like it as much as the movie, and I kind of wish I didn't read it. Sorry. I should take the time to mention at this point here in the ending of the July portion of this video that my mom ended up picking a TBR jar pick for me because I forgot to before I left, didn't pick one, and then didn't get the chance to actually make a TBR or a wrap-up or anything before or after while I was in Cape Breton. But she did pick a TBR jar pick for me, and it was Read a New to You author. So basically any one of these books could have went for this. So I don't really know which one kind of went for this. I guess it would be the first book after Throne of Glass that I read, which would be the Robin Schneider book. So I guess that one counts. I'm gonna make that one count because I can't exactly use Throne of Glass for both. But you know, it counts. So I did complete this one. And since I've decided not to do an August TBR, I'm just going to pick my TBR jar pick for this month, for August coming up. And whatever I pick is the book, like whatever I pick, I'll pick a book and then mention it in my wrap up. I probably won't pick a book in this video. So yeah, there's only 5 left. What are we gonna do, guys? I don't know. Which is this? What is this? What is this? Okay, so I have Read a Series finale. I'm currently not in the middle of any series. I don't know, guys. I might have to start a new series. So I don't know what I'm gonna pick for this because I don't have any series on my shelves that I have started reading and haven't read the ending to. So I will come back to you on this, and maybe in a Friday's read video or maybe just in my August wrap up will I mention what book I read for this. And I suppose I should mention the book that I am currently reading, but I probably will not finish tonight because it's over 300 pages long and I'm only 116 pages through it. But it's another one you will be seeing in my July book haul, and that is Landline by Rainbow Rowell. This is her adult book. This one and Attachments, which is currently in the mail on its way to me. So I will have all of her books. I have read Fangirl, I have read Eleanor and Park, and now I am reading Landline, and I'm actually really enjoying it considering how little I have read of it, which is 116 pages of it. It is a little bit confusing, and the beginning's been a little bit slow, but I am enjoying it despite that, and maybe it's just because I really enjoy her writing style, and she just makes it easy to read even if it's confusing and even if it's a little slow and bland towards the beginning. But you know what? I am loving it, and I'm pretty sure it'll be 5 stars. So that is it for this video, you guys. I'm off to film my July book haul, which will probably be up like an hour or so, or maybe a day or so after this. Who knows? It depends on when I edit it. But whenever that is, I will see you in that video. Bye, guys!